Good afternoon. My name is Matthew Williams, and I'm a student at Framingham State University. I'm in the Hospitality and Tourism Management program. I had dinner about 2 months ago at Orfano, the latest restaurant of Chef Tiffany Faison's restaurant group, Big Hearth Hospitality. Here, I met Charlie Gaeta, the sommelier for the restaurant group and the wine director. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce Charlie.
Hey, Matt. Thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me, and looking forward to answering any and all questions.
Well, so happy to have you. So, can you please tell me a little bit about yourself, your personal background? To my understanding, you're from Lynn, Massachusetts?
Yeah, yep. So I've always kind of been a city kid, but born and raised in Lynn. Went to prep school up in the North Shore, about 10 miles north of Lynn. Played lacrosse through high school and college. Went to Providence College. At this point, I, unlike you, had not known I would have anything to do with hospitality, aside from some maybe late night parties in college that could be defined as hospitality a little bit. But and then after that, I got into investment banking. This is right around 08, 09. So really perfect timing, right as the economic collapse. But I held a job at a pretty esteemed firm called Brown Brothers Harriman in both New York City and Boston for a few years. But really, at this point, had become obsessed with restaurants. And I think the defining moment was just this endeavor to pull the curtain back and see how does this operate? How are all these restaurants and bars that I'm getting into, whether it's Boston or New York, how do they operate? How are they able to make people happy like I am in these spots? And then I started to bar back. I applied for a bartending position and they kind of laughed at me because I had zero experience whatsoever. So I took the second best thing, which was bar back. So I started really bar backing and bussing tables on the weekends while I was still doing some pretty heavy lifting in the financial sector. So I was working 7 days a week, commuting from Boston back to my hometown in Lynn, where the first restaurant I ever worked at was. And then just did every job at that restaurant that I could. So it was, busser, bar back, food runner, outside expo. Eventually got the Sunday night bar shift, which was crickets at that point. And then, a few years of just building some experience in studying and reading and traveling, became bartender, bar manager, beverage director, general manager. And then that's sort of where my career kind of took off at that point. So I went from busser to GM and beverage director in just a few years. And it would have taken me a lot longer to ever accomplish what I accomplished in such a short amount of time in the financial sector, because I didn't have the passion for it. It seemed like the right thing to do, but it wasn't for me. And everyone thought I was crazy when I quit my finance job for bussing tables, but here I am.
Wow.
And I still bus tables every single night.
So, and forgive me, now that I know a little bit about your personal background, I'm curious about how exactly you got to where you are today. And
yeah, I mean, it's, it takes a village, right? There is a lot of people who I think stuck their necks out on a really inexperienced, but I think, passionate kid. So, one of the first people to ever give me a chance was Matt O'Neill, who was a chef and restaurateur who came up under Barbara Lynch, and he opened his first restaurant called the Blue Box in Central Square, and that's where just through some connections of people who were investors in the restaurant, I heard about it, and then I figured might as well apply to a restaurant where I know somebody at, which there was no nepotism. I started from the very bottom. So that's certainly like, that was a huge catalyst. He allowed me to flourish there. I had to work my butt off for it, but he allowed it, and he allowed me to make a lot of mistakes because it was always my first time doing whatever I was doing. It was my first time busing, first time running a wine program. So I have to give like a huge pat on the back to Matt O'Neill. He's still a dear friend of mine now. He was the first guy to give me a shot. Without sounding corny, my parents were super, super supportive. I'm really like very happy that very fortunate that I come from a pretty liberal minded family. And, I think they saw the heart and soul behind it, and, supported my decision as far as, leaving a pretty steady, lucrative job in the financial district to, commute from the Seaport District in Boston to downtown Lynn every day to go, bus tables was a surprise, but they welcomed it, which was really great. And then, I started making some waves at the Blue Ox, which was interesting because we weren't in downtown Boston. We were kind of, north of the city, which was interesting. Oddly enough, I think it gave us a little ability to flex creatively. Like there wasn't the pressure of like 20 other restaurants on the street. So we could kind of push some boundaries, all things considered, where we were. It was really awesome running a beverage program there. When the restaurant started, they didn't have a sommelier. They didn't have a beverage director. So as I was on the bar for a few years, I was seeking certification through the Court of Master Sommeliers. I passed my intro and certified. I had passed the 4 levels of the BU program, the Elizabeth Bishop Wine program. I'm sorry, I had done the BU program first, and then did the Court of Master Sommeliers afterwards. And at that time, I got recognized as Zagat 30 under 30, which was really cool. I forget what year that was. God, so long ago. And at that point, I had been sort of recruited by a larger restaurant group in the city to open up one of their restaurants called Branchline. So it was the Garrett Harker restaurant group, which is Eastern Standard, Hawthorne, Branchline, Island Creek, Row 34, etc. So Garrett and his like right hand man Andrew Holden were opening up Branchline as an extension of Eastern Standard. So I hopped on board with that group as the wine director for close to 3 years, and Garrett certainly played a huge role considering his pedigree as far as being recognized by James Beard as far as nominations. He's definitely one of the best restaurateurs in the city. One of the sort of guiding lights of hospitality in Boston over the past 15, 20 years. And then Andrew Holden, who, similar to Matt O'Neill, really kind of took me under his wing. And I thought I knew a little bit about running a wine program and being a somm. And then I realized that I'd have to be broken down a little bit and rise back up and kind of learn some new tricks. And Andrew is the consummate restaurant professional. He can do every job in the restaurant. He could be a wine director. He could be a somm. He could be outside expo. He's an owner, restaurateur, friend, father, all the things. And that was a really cool 2.5+ years to be able to work side by side with somebody like him. And then after that, I took a break for the first time since I graduated college, and took a little time to do some consulting on the side, which allowed me to do a few things. At that point, I had my sights on New York City. I thought I just kind of needed a bigger forum, wanted to sort of test my skills in a larger market. So while I was kind of searching and asking around and getting the ball like rolling very initial, I was also awarded a few opportunities all kind of in the same time to travel. So I had some big trips out to California and Italy in particular. And I was able to sort of do some consulting on a restaurant wine list, do some private cellar work, which was the first time I had done that, which was really great. And it allowed me a lot of flexibility. It was kind of tough to get into it because it kind of was like, working for myself for the first time. Again, like the end goal was like, all right, like once the travel stops, then I'll start taking interviews in New York. So that was really fun, really interesting, very different than like the path I'd always been on. It was like prep school, college, like, finance job. And then finally, like, you have the structure of like working your way up in the restaurant, like everything has like this kind of hierarchy in the structure. And then all of a sudden I had no structure. I just kind of had some days where, I didn't have work, and then other days I was traveling. Other days I was going to someone's private cellar. So it was super interesting. I met some great people. And then the people along the way in my career had really helped me out as well anytime I needed advice. But at that time I was, I threw a wine party at one of the restaurants I was consulting at, and a very close friend of mine who is one of the partners in 2 natural wine bars in the city, Natalie and Haley Henry, attended with her husband. It was like, what are you doing? I was like, what do you mean? She's like when this is all done, what's the next big job? I was like, I don't know. I was like, probably New York. And she's like, well, do you want to stay in Boston? I was like, yes, but find me a job that would, be a more large encompassing job. And at that point, Chef Tiffany was opening up Orfano, or had plans to be opening up Orfano. And I started meeting with her. Basically, my friend made the connection, and we talked about Orfano, and more importantly, like what the job would entail beyond Orfano. So by the time that I signed on board, it was wine director for all of Big Hearth Hospitality. With, the goal was, all right, open Orfano. We have to open, work the floor every night as the sommelier. This is a group that had never had a somm, had never had a wine director. And then, slowly but surely take over the other projects and transform them into, places that take wine service and hospitality via wine and the product of wine very seriously. Chef Tiffany has had these amazing restaurants open, amazing hospitality. The food, the cocktails is awesome. The structure of the wine list just needed somebody to sort of take it by the reins. And, for her to allow me to do that has been hands down the most exciting part of the most exciting time of my career has been working with her. Her food, she's not a one-trick pony. She has 4 restaurants on the same block, and they're all totally different conceptually. So like your mind as a sommelier or as a curator of a wine list is being challenged every day with like different flavors and styles of cooking. And she, she doesn't stop. She has so much energy and so much passion. It's, you either can keep up with it and push yourself, or, I think like fall off to the side. And I'm just, anywhere she's going, I'm following her right now. So it's been a really fun, when did I sign on? Probably late August. So yeah, it's been less than a year, but it's been the most fulfilling part of my career so far as a somm, definitely.
Wow. That's incredible. You have a rich profile. You have a lot of experiences that have really shaped you as a person, as a sommelier, as a wine director. And I admire that when the existing structures didn't work for you, you innovated and you made your own lane, and you're provided such wonderful opportunities that give you flexibility to be your own boss in many regards. And I must ask, and you did touch on it, but like, what is Big Hearth Hospitality?
So Big Hearth Hospitality, just in the name, you can kind of, I think it resonates with like how we approach our jobs. We truly have passion and love for our guests and for what we do and for each other. Yes, hospitality to the guests is at the forefront every night we open our doors, but hospitality towards each other is equally as important, as colleagues, as coworkers, whether it's a dishwasher or a wine director. we have this joke, we call it the block, but on Boylston Street called like hashtag the hospitality never stops. And it's all of us like during different times of the week trying to like kind of one up each other as far as doing something like hospitable towards each other. So like, if our beverage director, like Brian Callahan is, pulling a bar shift over at Fool's Errand, and it's a busy Saturday night and they don't have an espresso machine, I'll pull an espresso order, fine, I'll run it over to him and be like, here you go, man. And like, we like always with the drop phrase, like the hospitality never stops. So I think like, that type of culture that Chef Tiffany has created as far as just this overwhelming sense of pride to do what we do. And that's hospitality before food and wine and service, right? And hospitality has to be, disconnected from service. Service is what you kind of do to someone. You drop a plate the correct way, you pour wine the correct way, you fold the napkin when the guest is away. That's impeccable service. That's good service. To give good hospitality is like how you make somebody feel. And I think if we're going around and trying to make all of the people we work with feel really good, then there's like this osmosis effect, I think, with our guests. And like, I really hope they pick it up. So it's like, Big Heart Hospitality. It's not corny. It's like a cornerstone of like how we approach each day.
I saw it and felt it. All of the associates worked with such purpose and with such intensity and poise, and it was really impressive to see. And I felt good. I could.
Good.
So let's see. Now,
and, I'm sorry, just to touch. So Big Heart Hospitality right now is 4 restaurants. Orfano, which you had dinner at. Fool's Errand, which I just mentioned, is our really cool standing room only bar, which is tucked in between the next two. The OG one, the original, is Sweet Cheeks Q, and then Tiger Mama, of course, and all on the same street, which is great.
So forgive me, is the standing bar, is that a snack bar?
Yeah. I mean, adult snack bar, for lack of a better term, like small bites, really fun cocktails. The list is all French by the glass. And then there's, we got these personalized Shinola, like notebooks. And I actually handwrite the bottle list. It kind of changes like week by week based on allocations or like what we're getting in. So, you have about 13 wines by the glass, all from France. And then up behind the shelf, you have bottles of wine with like the price on it. And there's a little passage at the end of the wine list that says like, please inquire about our handwritten list. And if a guest asks for that, we give it to them. And there's some just like kind of not like super technical information about the wine, just more kind of romantic, whimsical expressions of like these wines that we really, really love. So it's a cool little spot. It fits about 25 people tops, but it's fun.
Wow. So you really did monopolize on that block, if you will.
Yeah, chef is very smart.
So what are some pros and cons of operating in the Fenway area?
I think there's more pros than cons at this time. I think we're really lucky to be in a neighborhood. I think, Chef Tiffany can speak on the history of Fenway a little bit more than I can, because she was probably the first restaurateur to open up on this side of, Fenway Kenmore. You had Eastern Standard, of course, my former employer down in Kenmore Square. But, we're, not super close to there. So it was, there was nothing down here. It was like gas stations and like sketchy convenience stores and dive bars. So when she opened Sweet Cheeks, like that's innovative in itself, is opening something, progressive like that in a neighborhood that hasn't really seen something like that before. So I think, that was probably a con originally, just as far as the location and putting Fenway on the map. I live right across the street from Tiger Mama now. Like, I'm a resident of Fenway, and to see how this neighborhood has just like surged over the past few years, I think that's a huge positive for us. We have more and more guests who live in the neighborhood because of buildings going up, and without throwing shade towards the Seaport, it's kept its integrity. It still feels like Boston. It still feels like Fenway. Like, you can still see Fenway Park. there's restaurateurs, there's not corporations coming in, there's chefs that are still able to open up. You know, just in our building alone, where Orfano is, in the Pierce building, this beautiful, beautiful building with some of the nicest apartments in Boston right now. You know, they had the decision to, you know, bring in Natalie for like a natural wine bar that's run by, you know, Haley and Christy, which is great. Instead of bringing in, you know, a big wine shop, it was Aaron and Jyoti from the Wine Press Brookline, who opened up their second location in the same building. You know, instead of like yet another steakhouse like Ruth's Chris or Abe and Louie's or whatever, or Del Frisco's, I should say, not Abe and Louie's. They took a chance on someone like Chef Tiffany. And I think that goes to show you like how these developers and investors in Fenway, not just Big Hearth Hospitality, but Fenway in general, are perceiving, you know, the neighborhood. And it's, I'm really happy about it. I mean, yes, I look across to a huge Target, but, you know, for the most part, it's, you know, small, like restaurateurs and operators, which is really great. You know, the list goes on, but if you start from, you know, Tasty Burger, which, hey, it's for us as Bostonians, like Tasty Burger is more Fenway than if it was a Shake Shack. I love Shake Shack, but Tasty Burger makes more sense in Fenway. You know, all the way from Citizen, Tasty Burger down to Orfano, these are all like singular owners and operators, or their local groups or restaurateurs. So it's really cool to see the city stay the same, or not stay the same. It's changing drastically. Stay the course as far as like investing in the local talent.
You're a part of an authentic dining experience that gives back to the local environment and the small businesses, and it's beautiful as well. I actually was curious about the Pierce Tower, and that's awesome that Orfano shares that building.
It's you know, it's, you walk, I mean, you've done it, like to be able to walk through that front door and like, you know, call it my office every day is like, it's so special. The building is beautiful. What Chef and the design team built is beautiful. I'm super spoiled. Chef has an eye for design that I don't think I've ever seen a chef have. Each one of her restaurants is so cool. It's so personal. And, you know, I think that's a reflection of like how the neighborhood is growing as well. It still seems like cool and like impersonal and like Fenway-y. I just made up a word, Fenway.
All as well. It's very funky. Because when I went into Orfano, I could, because a contemporary take on traditional Italian American cuisine, but the dark wood, the mahogany, the burgundy, suede seating, like the gold conical chandeliers, like I was just very, in the high ceilings, I was blown away.
Yeah, you know, there's a level of decadence, but without taking it too seriously, and for sure not being pretentious about it. You know, and I'm always reticent to speak on behalf of Chef Tiffany, but like she basically wanted to take the concept of the Italian American restaurants that we all love so much and strip away all the stuff she didn't like about those type of restaurants. You know, I think, you know, the perfect example is like, you take a right and you have this old world looking bar, and then just right above it, you have Anna Pellegrino, like one of the best old school restaurateurs in New York City, next to Lady Gaga eating spaghetti. So it's like, it's everything like you remember from like an Italian American restaurant, but 2020 now. It's you know, instead of red booths, there are these beautiful purple booths. And it's, you know, there's one table where you have basically a collage of Sophia Loren on the ceiling, which is really cool. Next time you're in the restaurant, I'll show you that. We call it table 41, but it's a very sexy space. And, you know, the waiters with the white shirts and the black bow ties, you know, we're checking off a lot of boxes that you check off in fine dining, but we're playful about it. You know, the huge pepper shakers, like, you know, the table side services of martinis, that stuff, you know, there's a classic and like fine dining approach to it. But, you know, I think we're all like smiling and it's high energy and there's really cool music and the light. It's a sexy dining room for sure. It's a really fun spot to run around in.
Most certainly is. And I'm lucky to have the opportunity and look forward to checking out Table 41.
Yes, yes.
So, in a so I can ask for fun facts or statistics, or we can put a hold on that for now and transition to the modern times. Which do you have preference to?
Um, yeah, I mean, if you want to transition, great.
So, the coronavirus pandemic is drastically affecting the hospitality industry. How is Big Heart Hospitality? How have you been affected so far?
Yeah, I mean, listen, like I'm not gonna like sugarcoat it. We've had to lay off all of our employees. You know, from the top down, we are all collecting unemployment right now. We had to, so we stopped um, we stopped dining. What was that, Saturday or Sunday, when the state was mandated to stop in-service dining, then we stopped, and then we remained open for another week doing delivery and takeout across 3 of the 4 restaurants. Fool's Errand shut down immediately, and then Tiger, Sweet Cheeks, and Orfano all worked for about a week with just management. At that point, hourly employees had to be laid off, with the hope that there is a job for them when they come back, obviously. So furlough, if for lack of a better word. So yeah, I think it was that Saturday, the 15th, it hit. The next day, hourly employees were furloughed, and then for another week, management did everything we could to try to get food out there to the people, and then realized that the sustainability factor, and more than sustainability, just from our end, and this isn't every restaurant, but the safety factor for our employees and for our guests, as far as delivery and takeout, we decided to raid the walk-ins and put packages together for all hourly employees, feed everyone we could internally, and shut it down.
Wow. That's a very noble effort and very unfortunate. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Isn't there relief?
The same boat.
Is there, was there not a relief promised or relief expected?
So there's a lot of the financial logistics I can't speak about, for a few reasons. One's, it's out of my pay grade as far as some of the macro decisions being made. And also I don't want to say anything that shouldn't be public knowledge from Chef Tiffany, obviously. What we're trying to do for our employees, we have a GoFundMe up for hourly employees, which is really great. Actually, most recently this week, Chef, myself, and Chef Dan Rea and Jill Hardy, all part of sort of the global team at Big Heart Hospitality. We just cooked for Mass General employees on Tuesday and Beth Israel employees on Thursday. And that was a friend of the restaurant raised the funds in order for us to be able to do that. So when opportunities like that come about, we still, Chef and I are both in this neighborhood. We can just have the opportunity to walk across the street and do a little good, if and when it presents itself. But as far as, immediate, like more macro relief, there hasn't been. And that's the conversation, which is the rabbit hole as far as like what we need to do to, save the hospitality industry. There's a lot of petitions out there. We're communicating with our staff as much as possible. Sometimes it feels like we're inundating them with a lot of information, but it's a lot of important information. One that I've been really promoting on social media, but on via email or schedule fly to all of our staff and to the other managers of the other restaurants, is the Independent Restaurant Independent Restaurant Coalition, the IRC. They're doing some really, really great work as far as providing visibility to some really heartbreaking statistics about our industry as a whole, in order to, create this effort to kind of step our game up as far as legislation is concerned, towards, the restaurant workers across the country. It's, very rarely have we seen an entire industry almost decimated overnight, and that's essentially what's happened.
So you were employed during the last recession. You were forgive me. You were working in the field of
Yep.
an economic field. So you were expecting
So
from a 7-year business cycle something to happen, but you didn't expect it to be this drastic, I would imagine.
Yeah, I mean, listen, like people still go out and drink in a recession. You know, now people don't even have the option to go out and drink in a recession. So, you know, that has changed drastically. I would say that's one difference between having a restaurant in 08, 09 and having a restaurant during COVID-19 in 2020. It's incomparable because most of the restaurants could still serve guests. Obviously, there are massive blows to lots of different industries, the restaurant industry being one of them. You know, this isn't watching the same movie over. This is totally different. There's no reference point to it. Nobody really knows what's going to happen. I mean, I can make a few guesses. It's not going to, whenever we are able to open our doors, we're not just going to open the doors and it's going to be full capacity and martini cart's going to be like going around and, you know, big steaks all over the place. I think it's going to have to be like a very slow and you know, sure transition back into whatever normal means again, because that term will definitely be redefined, and especially for restaurants and how we operate, which is scary. And I don't know what that looks like, but I do know that it's going to be different.
Wow. So the health of all is my greatest concern. So I shan't wish for a quick return to normalcy, but I hope that the pattern of normalcy that we can soon establish is fulfilling and you're, you know.
Yeah, you know, it's funny. You take it to the most basic micro, like human level. And like, I was thinking like, you know, a few Saturdays before things were really starting to get serious, it's, you know, friends walk in and like you're, as a hospitality professional, like your intuition is to give them a hug. Like that's my basic intuition as a restaurant worker, is to like hug my friends who are coming in. And, you know, not only do we not have the ability to serve those guests anymore, but like when we do have the ability, hopefully, to serve them again, like what does that mean? What type of service and execution is that going to mean? You know, short term and long term. So, you know, there's chilling statistics, you know, about, you know, the impact as far as like if you want to talk about what the restaurant means to the overall GDP, and you know, it's close to 5%. How many millions have been laid off because of this? And those are, you need to know those for sure to go forward and to you know, I think make the best possible decisions. But you know, I think a lot of things that are being missed is like that, those small human things of our industry that we love so much, like making people smile, hugging people. You know, those are the things that pull at my heartstrings a little bit more. It's tough. You know, I think we all want to go back and, you know, return to normal, but I think that normal is going to be redefined for sure.
As the strong innovator that you are, I hope you're able to redefine excellence in hospitality, you know, in light of the newest circumstances. And I appreciate you not sugarcoating and being so forthcoming about your opinions. But I nonetheless have optimism for us both. And I hope the return to, you know, Big Heart's hospitality, its return is as seamless as possible and as safe as possible. And I'm really lucky to have had the opportunity to shake your hand before this.
Yeah. Yeah. Hopefully more handshakes down the line, and we'll get you to table 41 and you know, style you out properly. Because I know, you know, on the other side of this, there's a lot of people who are going to have this like I know myself, and I think like at the other side of this, I'm going to be so excited to go back to work, to do what I love doing, that, you know, it could honestly like have a positive effect on our, like how we want to give people hospitality, if that makes any sense. I think, you know, there's a lot of time to think about stuff right now, but just the the thought of returning back to a restaurant where I can make people happy for a living, that is going to be a very, I think, driving force. And honestly, I think it's going to, there's a lot of restaurants in Boston right now that are suffering. So I want to seem insensitive at all, but there's going to be, you're going to have to be really, really good at your job when this comes out. And I think to be really, really good at your job in this industry it starts with hospitality. So it'll be interesting to see, what that means. I wish I had an answer for you, but I do not.
So you expect a strong, resilient team to return, and in order to survive, it's going to have to stay that way. And thank you so much, Charlie. I appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah,
and
thank you. Email me. Stay healthy, stay safe, and we'll drink some wine when this is all done.
I look forward to it. Thank you.
All right, my friend. Cheers.
Be well.